Hello, viewers. A good morning to you all. For those joining us for the very first time, welcome to Civic Space TV, and in particular, focus on Parliament show, which happens every Saturday morning here on Civic Space TV. I am Kidega Moses, your host for this morning. I am only stepping in for your, original host, Harris Akampuria. Well, for those of you who have cared to read our Constitution, and that's the 1995 Constitution, is that an entire chapter, chapter 13, is set aside to talk about the Inspectorate of Government. It does establish the office of the IGG, and therein gives it functions, and among others are to, oversee issues of misuse of public office, issues around corruption, issues around fairness and equity, among others. And the IGG did execute their constitutional mandate, and did present to the Speaker of Parliament and therein to the country a report, on issues around corruption and how far have we gone as a country to deal with the issue of misuse of public funds and public office. Viewers, welcome to this show. I'm joined by a panel of distinguished panelists this morning. That is now my pleasure to introduce to you, and in no particular order, I'm joined by Peter Cromwell Okello, who is an education specialist and international development practitioner, and also a former parliamentary candidate in Labwor constituency in Karamoja. Cromwell, we are happy to have you.
Thank you. And the most important one that you have not indicated is that I am a Rotary Peace Fellow at Makerere University, Peace Center.
Peace Center. Thank you. Yeah. We are very happy to have you, Cromwell. Next to Cromwell is Apollo Tusiime. Apollo is the General Secretary of Uganda Parliamentary Press Association. Apollo, we are happy to have you.
It's a pleasure being part of the civic space. Greetings from the parliamentary press. Looking forward to an engaging discussion.
Yeah, we are very happy to have you. Next to myself is Dr. Denis Musinguzi. Doctor is a senior lecturer on governance and peace studies at Uganda Martyrs University in Nkozi. Doctor, we are happy to have you.
Thank you so much. And it is my pleasure to be back here.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you as well. So I'll just begin with a general question to all of us. Perhaps that will lay the foundation for this conversation, which is, we have read the report and, issues are raised therein. Just what do you make of that report? I'll just begin with you, Doctor, as I move towards Cromwell. Just your general comments first.
Yes, my general comment is that the IGG as an established institution is doing its effort to do its work, which is prescribed to it by the Constitution. It is doing it in the circumstances that obtain in the country. And according to the report, we can give them some credit that they are doing something to fulfill their mandate, especially in the anti-corruption conversation which we are having this morning.
So in your own evaluation, do you think the IGG is it a toothless dog? Because if you had the statements of the Honorable Betty Kamya, she said that at times they find challenges with prosecuting, she used the word big officials. I don't know, is it a sleeping giant?
Well, I don't want to say it is a sleeping giant. Management scholarship teaches us that in organizations, in governments, we have both formal structures and informal structures and systems. Sometimes informal structures and systems are even more powerful than actually the formal systems. And I think the IGG, in her remarks, she was emphasizing that. That look here, we are there to do the work, but we have our own limitations that sometimes may not help us to do things as we would wish to do them as an inspectorate. Previously, the retired Justice Katuti, in one of the cases when he was prosecuting I think the late Ted says Che, he also made a similar remark. When he was opening his ruling, he said the proceedings of the case indicate that we are dealing with a very small fish when there are actually bigger fish that are involved in corruption. He said, but since my role is that of a judge and not of a prosecutor, I will not go into those details. But he was giving us light. That
was in which case again?
It was a corruption case which involved Ted says Cheye, the late,
Chogam.
and Chogam on the Chogam scandal.
That is Justice
Katuthi,
okay.
the retired.
Okay.
So he's also making the same remarks that, look here, we are dealing with smaller cases and yet there are bigger cases that are involved. And what I'm reading out of that is that, yes, the informal systems maybe are determining who to be investigated, who to be prosecuted, who to be aligned before the IGG. And when the IGG comes to mention that we are working in circumstances that sometimes are not allowing us to do the work, when you look in the report, she's complaining of understaffing. She's talking about late releases of funds. So I wouldn't be quick to say it is a sleeping giant. It is the circumstances in the country, the political environment, and the overbearing power and influence of those non-formal structures and institutions that determine the kind of direction that the directorate is taking.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Apollo, as I come to you, you've covered Parliament, and I don't know, each time these reports come out, because the role of Parliament, whereas it is defined under Article 79, is that Parliament only makes recommendations. It does not have sufficient powers to actually enforce some of that recommendation. So I don't know, in dealing with corruption, what is the role of Parliament? Is it merely oversight, or they have capacity to, in fact, dig deeper and to actually enforce some of these discoveries that they eventually find out? So I don't know, Parliament, does it have capacity to deal with some of these issues being raised in the report?
Yes.
Like delayed funds, understaffing, yeah.
Yeah, Parliament as the third organ of government, within its mandate, it has the oversight function. And through that function, Parliament can make recommendations. Parliament can also do oversight through its the committees of Parliament, and especially the accountability committees have powers of court. They can actually hand someone, a witness, to police and push for an investigation and possibly a conviction. But largely, like you said, it is it's largely a recommendation from Parliament. Parliament can recommend through either the motions that are agreed on the floor of Parliament. But again, like I said, the Speaker can pick interest and then send an issue to the committees for further investigation and probe. So what the IGG did, is within their mandate. It's constitutional. I also applaud the office of the IG and the IG herself for presenting the report. But like Dr. here said, at times there are institutions which are formal and are more powerful than others. And I think that is one indicator that things have gone wrong. I don't think in an upright system, an informal institution should be powerful, much more powerful than a formal institution. If we go to dig into the contents of the report I think raises critical concerns, and one of them is the declining trend of the concluded investigations. They are declining, and again, the conviction rate is also declining, which is also a concern. And we must interrogate why it is happening.
Yeah.
There must be issues. Well, the IG pointed out issues of understaffing, late release of funds, but me, I can only wait for well, I may not get that report because they report somewhere. The State House Anti-Corruption Unit in the President's office, in the State House, they report to the President. I don't think, but if we can have a chance to look at their report, possibly we may find out that possibly for them they have covered much ground than the IG, and that should be a cause for worry, because this is a constitutional body that should be charged with fighting corruption and bringing those who are abusing offices to order. So, and in itself, the decision by the head of state to appoint a parallel institution, when actually there was this constitutionally created body, then you must, of course, think that there is a problem. Why would he in any way create another institution when there was this one? Why not empower this one to do its work, to execute its mandate? The suspicion is that possibly the president wanted an institution that he can have power, upon, that he can direct and they do the work. But then others would think he would want an institution that he can manipulate. So that it's two-way, and that is why I said maybe we also need to look at what they are doing, and then we may possibly appreciate the total benefit out of all these scattered institutions doing the same work.
All right, because I think that the issue per se would not be that there are other institutions doing the same thing. But is there a conflict of mandate in any way? Because take an example of, what example can I use? Okay, look at institutions that are charged with the mandate of say, implementing certain legal frameworks. Like you look at UNRWA that works in conjunction with yes, works ministry. So would the issue be exactly that there are many institutions doing the same thing, or does that in itself open floodgates for competition in terms of mandate? I don't know.
No, my concern is that well, now the IG is reporting to Parliament. The State House Anti-Corruption Unit, I suppose it reports the president directly, but Parliament is a representation of the whole population. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So at least once this report is in the hands of the Speaker, we know that the members of Parliament will have a chance to peep into the report and possibly demand for a course of action. But a report that goes to the president, you never know what will happen. He may maybe not find time to do what? To attend to its contents. So I think it is better to equip a formal institution and which has that constitutional power. Yes. I don't find a very big reason as to why we would have a parallel institution running, or parallel institutions running the same mandate.
It's duplication.
Yeah.
Okay, Cromwell, I was actually coming to you. Speaking about corruption, because the corrupt officials are Ugandans. They don't come from us. They're part of us. So as we discuss corruption, it must be a people-led conversation. It cannot be an elite discussion entirely. The people must be involved in saying, you know what, enough is enough. As you give us your comments about the IG report, do you think that we have a population, a body politic that understands the negative effects of corruption? Do they appreciate it, the people, at the lowest level possible?
Yeah, thank you. The Uganda is, of course, a mixed bag of characters. There are those who see no problem at all whatsoever with what is unfolding in Uganda. Those are the beneficiaries of corruption proceeds. And then the victims themselves see a problem, but some of the victims are powerless. Some of the victims have nothing to do. And then those who have what to do, the elite, are complacent, unfortunately. They are not coming up to actually advocate on behalf of those who are powerless. The IGG, in my view, is trying its best to perform its constitutional mandate and is reporting to Parliament. And I also know that the head of state, the president, is the chief accounting officer to the people of Uganda. We have had reports. I don't know which are, there are quite a number of reports that have been produced by the IGG. And my question, therefore, is what has been done in response to those reports? If every year we are seeing cases of corruption coming up, we are losing trillions when we have our children in the streets, we have dilapidated hospitals and schools, we have poor people in our communities, and we have so many development challenges that require redress. It therefore gives us a challenge of whether we have a system in place. My view of Uganda is that it is a country where persons override the systems. Systems are not functioning. If you go to a country where systems are in place, the corrupt will have nothing to do. Remember the other question that was asked in Karamoja by one of the elders to the president. He was asking, Mr. President, who are these corrupt? Are they white? Are they black? Where do they come from? The same question you're saying. They are Ugandans here. So these are Ugandans whom the IGG probably does not have the ability to touch them. You see, you were asking my colleague Denis, Dr. Denis, whether the IGG is a toothless dog. No, I think the IGG is a powerful dog with a sharp set of very sharp set of teeth, but they are bridled. They are bridled. No, cannot. Bridling is to control someone from moving their mouth. No? So control and cannot act. I think it is upon the president and parliament to make sure that they make the IGG strong, operational, and effective. Otherwise, they'll be working there and not causing impact. We'll continue to lose money. These are taxpayers' money, and also monies from other countries. Taxpayers who are locally here, and then taxpayers maybe from Europe and America. You know how they define foreign aid? They say foreign aid is the money, the taxes from poor people in Europe to enrich rich people in poor countries. And that is what is exactly happening. So it's a good report, of course. It is the IGG is coming up and saying, yes, here you are, government, act. This is what I have unearthed. So what is the government doing about it? That's the question.
Wow, very good submissions. Doctor,
Yes.
there's something that we have had over time, which is political will. Is there political will to fight corruption in this country?
When we are to answer whether there is political will or not, I think we have to go back to even understand when we say corruption, what exactly is it? How is it manifesting in Uganda? The simplest and the common way of describing or defining corruption is saying that it is misuse of public resources for private gain. But that is as too simplistic. In Uganda today, corruption has become highly sophisticated, highly systematic economic crime, which goes to the way how decisions are made, how policies are designed. People design policies already knowing amount of money that will come and how much they will get out of it. Projects, whether it is roads, by the time they commission a road, they know how much money is going to be spent on the road and how money is going to come to their pockets. And I'm calling it sophisticated because they have now even learned how to defeat the systems. They know to commission a road, you need a procurement process. They will put a procurement process. They will know there must be a decision made and monies, which are given. So they will put all that. Even in recruitment, they will hire an HR team to do the recruitment, but inside there will be cheats. Please consider this one. And the cheats are not going to come into the conversation. What will come in the conversation is that there was an advertisement, there was an HR firm that was contracted, there was even interviews that were held, and the following people were selected. So meaning that now the system has even learned how to conceal corruption, to the extent that even when you are assessing whether the IGG is doing its job or not, the inspectorate is doing its job, but under those very difficult circumstances.
Yeah, sure.
The difficult circumstances. So there are where systems are defeated, and maybe it goes back to the aspects of the report that we're talking about. The decline in successful conviction, conviction and what, because corruption has now perfected itself, it coexists with the system. It lives within, it lives within the system. Now, that is not a manifestation of will to fight corruption, but it is a manifestation of the commitment to mainstream corruption into the decision making, into the activities of government to benefit those that it is supposed to benefit. The question of political will, the only political will that exists is to perpetuate corruption so that people can keep benefiting from it. What we shall see as even the little convictions that are there, those are the outliers who are not part of the main system, individuals who have benefited a bit and can be sacrificed to showcase that, we are doing something. And I think that's where we started from. You will hear someone stole 15 million and is been put. Others are diverting the entire Labwor hospital alone or what. And you don't hear those cases neither within the IGG's work, not even in the main court's mainstream. We have that hospital in Labwor which was commissioned. Yeah, even when the parliamentarians on that committee went to inspect what is going on, they were even blocked from entering. Is that the country that has the will? Where you are even frustrating a parliament which has the constitutional oversight mandate to even do its work. And it goes back maybe to what I talked about earlier, who has the stake in that hospital? And what powers do they have? Maybe people with stake, they have even the capacity to call the police and say, please look these guys, and even tear gas them. Let them not come close to where we are. So as we are creating parallel institutions, we have also created parallel structures. And these parallel structures are hidden. You cannot see them, you cannot touch them. But in essence, they are the ones who are making decisions, who are determining which funds go where and which funds do what. So the political will, for me, it's something laughable. It is a beautiful statement, but which means completely nothing.
Interesting. Mr. Okello, I will pass on the question of political will to you, but also I would love you to comment about the independence of the IGG, because the IGG is part of the executive. So I don't know the level of independence and autonomy with which it operates, because if you're part of the executive, then how are you supposed to investigate and yet you're part of the same arm of government? I don't know.
Let me start with that one before I go to the political will. From the Constitution, the office of the IG must exercise that independence. It is there, it is guaranteed in the Constitution. And again, I will try to intertwine with that one with what you asked my colleague here, Peter. That is the IGG toothless dog. I also agree with my colleagues here that no, it's the office is not, and the person in the office is not, because looking at what Honorable Betty Kamya has actually, from where she started from, she came up with and she still insists that this is a people's war. This must be me and you fighting corruption. She asserts that corruption will not be fought by the people in government. The fight starts with the people at the grassroots, the victims. They should be part of that war. And I think she's very right. Now you see, she again identified the lifestyle audit system. You remember she launched it, and if I may ask, who has ever been convicted basing on the lifestyle audit? We see people, showing off big houses, and
The president advised
Yeah,
her strongly to,
yes.
to go slow.
Since it was launched, I think 1.5 years ago, the lifestyle audit, who has been convicted or maybe assessed basing from the lifestyle audit? I don't think there is any. So from what the Honorable Betty Kamya presented, she has showed everyone that she knows what to do. And she's sure that it can work, but the system has failed her. So if you ask about the political will, I think we should also look at how other governments have handled it. Those who have successfully fought corruption. Go to Rwanda. Look at the Singapore story. Lee Kuan Yew, how he handled it. It starts with the leader. If the leader stands strong against corruption, eventually the people will take it up. The people will appreciate, and they will be supportive. It's only getting the people to know the effects of corruption, and if the leader appreciates those effects, then the country will be free of corruption. So I think, talking about the political will, we lack the political will, and until we rediscover where that political will got lost, we will still struggle with corruption.
Okay. Mr. Okello, when you ran for Member of Parliament, were you independent or you in a political party?
Oh, unfortunately, I was independent. Otherwise,
Unfortunately.
unfortunately, I regret so much. One of the biggest mistakes I made, I should have run as UPC.
Okay, interesting. But my question to you is with regards to, of course, I will allow you to make comments regarding a political will because it is very important. If there is political will, I believe that we shall be so many steps ahead with regards to addressing corruption. But the question precisely is that the leadership code of conduct that the IGG, in fact, goes ahead to mention, that requires people holding public offices to declare their incomes, and which, of course, goes back to what he has said, the lifestyle audit that the IGG talked about. I don't know, do we have leaders who are accountable to the people? Because the IGG said some leaders or some individuals who hold public offices have gone ahead to declare their wealth, but a good number have not. So do we have leaders who are not accountable to the people? And if so, why don't leaders have that sense of accountability? Is it because of the political process that they spend so much money in the campaigns? Therefore, when they get these offices, they feel like, you know what, I'm here to compensate the money I lost, and I'm not accountable to the people. So I don't know, are our leaders accountable to the people?
That is actually self-explanatory. It's obvious that the Bible says you shall know them by their fruits, not just simply what they say. I'm not seeing accountable leaders here, leaders who are really accountable to the citizens of Uganda, to the voting population. They are not indeed. I have seen one in Tanzania. He was there for a short time and he died. John Pombe Magufuli, very accountable. Then there's another one in Rwanda, very benevolent man. I visited Rwanda and it's a smart country. Corruption is not a vocabulary there. Uganda is unfortunately a country where corruption fight has become a poem. People recite them and not practice them. If I may ask really, see, where is the Karamoja Iron City story ended? Where has it ended? No? A few people were arrested and paraded in court, slept in Luzira for some days, and were out. And the issue is now smartly being swept under the carpet. I would expect those in charge of Uganda to take full responsibility. I think a president like this needed to come and reinforce the energy of the IGG. This is the report the IGG has produced. What is the head of state saying about it? He simply needs to come up and say, those who are supposed to declare, if the law demands that we declare wealth, then we should be able to do that. And starting with the president himself, followed by all his ministers, by the way. It must be the order. But if there are some people who are left out, then you know that the country is a country not run by law, but it's just a few people who are in charge, and they are all above the system. They are untouchable, unfortunately. So by and large, I think the government, this country as a government, but the government seems tired, exhausted, and has no goodwill for now nearly 40 years to fight corruption. Otherwise, I was a child, now I'm an old man, I'm a parent. I haven't seen any aggressive action towards corruption fight.
Yeah.
I think the government needs to rest its case and hand over power to those who are committed.
I think what he's saying, there are some things for a government that has been in power for 37 years. There are some things you can say, these have been achieved, these have failed. And I'm sure fighting corruption, though it was one of the original 10-point program, it has failed.
Yeah.
And like he said, after 37 years, you don't think a lot will change or much will change. Because after all this time...
Okay, but then the question is, the alternative options, do they have the capacity to do any different? Because take an example of the other political alternatives that we have. Look at, let me use the NUP, for example. This is a party that did not have internal primaries. There was a committee that was simply selecting people.
Yeah.
So, because if you had to go by doctors' evaluation, is that corruption manifests in different forms. It didn't have to be money. Money didn't have to exchange hands for us to say there's corruption here. It manifests in so many ways. So the question is, okay, look at the FTC. Issues around dirty money. All right? So do you think that, because we are seeing that the NRM has been here for so long and have failed to fight this issue, but the ones that are there as an alternative, are they any different?
But brother, you must appreciate that the FDC or NUP are Ugandans. They have been here. They have been also victims of of circumstances. We are the same people who are in FDC and NUP. They are the same people. During the 37 years of NRM, they have also suffered the bad system. There are consequences of the bad system. So I don't want to pin them on the example you raised for not going to, for selecting.
No, those are just examples.
Yeah, it was because they didn't have time. I remember they didn't have time to go through the process, the whole process. The elections were drawing near, and they had just started their party. Maybe for the FDC, these are still rumors. We may not know whether indeed it was money or what.
Are there still rumors up to now?
No. We of course we don't have clear evidence. Possibly we cannot have it.
So meaning
but
you're
but
saying
of course,
that
I'm saying
the alternatives.
the alternatives are also not wholly. We cannot say that. But I think there is a chance, maybe, but time has run out for the government that has been in power for 7 years. The systems have been corrupted. All the systems have been corrupted. The doctor talked about it here, that even now people have learned how to overcome or overpower the system. Even if you ask for accountability, they will present accountability. But the accountability they present is cooked. So people have learned how to maneuver. Corruption has become endemic. I think it will be a big challenge to fight corruption under the current system.
But also, by the way, just in addition to what he's saying, is that even the alternatives have been infiltrated by Satan. Satan exists. You know, among when the children of God sit together, Satan comes amongst them and does their own things. You are aware that the so-called money that entered the FDC was the money from the other side. So most of these political parties in the opposition have been infiltrated by Satan, and they go there with their own agenda of disorganizing these political parties, defaming them, to portray them as incapable of ruling Uganda. I disagree with the...
But Mr. Okello, to be fair enough, what is happening, for example, in the FDC? It is one group of the FDC versus another group of the FDC.
But I assure you that in the FDCs there are no
so
malls.
Quick to drag the NRM into even issues that appear to be internal? But
you are aware that in all these political parties, there are actually planted malls to simply soil the names of some of these parties, honestly speaking. You know that.
Okay, fair enough. Doctor, as we take a short commercial break, my question to you is premised on the foundations of equity. And one of the maxims is, he who comes before equity must come with clean hands. And even Justice Musa Sekana did expand that maxim by saying that you should come with, on top of clean hands, a clean heart, a clean mind, and a clean everything. So the question is that the people who this report is being presented to, the Parliament, has itself been at the forefront of accusations of being corrupt. So I don't know, the IGG report going to a house that has itself been accused of being corrupt. So I don't know, is it a futile effort? Because look at that, look at our Parliament and all the accusations we hear of money, getting this and this. So does Parliament have clean hands to deal with corruption?
I like when Peter talks about the children of God and the children of Satan, and that Christian or biblical perspective to it. We are human beings, and human beings are not perfect. The only what we do as a human community is to put in place systems and laws and structures to create some level of order, to create mechanisms and systems and structures, how decisions are made and how they are implemented. Human imperfections are supposed to be moderated, by the systems and by the laws. And I wouldn't be taken away by imperfections of individuals who may be corrupt here or there. The Parliament has its constitutional mandate of what it is supposed to do. The cases of some corrupt members of Parliament wouldn't be a cover that the parliament cannot do its work. If someone who is coming for justice should come with a clean hand, but it should also operate in a clean system and a clean environment. When the environment is not clean, even the one who comes with clean hands is going to be dirty. And that's why you hear statements, if you want to do something normal in an abnormal situation, you also end up sounding abnormal and ridiculous. So for me, at the end of the day, we need to go beyond individual challenges and the individual failures. People have their interests. Some join parties. Some enter into electoral competition. You know how very expensive it is at the individual level. When they get the opportunity to recoup the money that they invested, they will be quick, to utilize that kind of opportunity. We need to separate that from the official role and mandate that they are supposed to do. If the money they are getting is coming from government, and it is government which is being investigated, they will certainly be compromised. They will certainly be compromised. But as a parliament, yes, there could be those particular cases of people who are corrupt and who are having their own baggage. In assessing their mandate, in assessing their performance, I wouldn't shift much to that. I would look into what is their role, how best are they doing it, when they receive reports, are they discussing them on the floor of parliament? Yes, they do. Do they make recommendations in terms of how to move forward? Yes, they have done that. Do they have the capacity to act on the recommendations? Their capacity is greatly limited. But do they follow up on government, whether the government is implementing some of their decisions? The parliament has done that.
Didn't you hear the speaker complaining, actually reporting that there is corruption in committees of parliament recently? So the oversight system, the oversight function of parliament is also corrupt, curtailed. So
corruption is everywhere.
It is tricky. It is tricky now, because wherever you go, then you, like you said, you have to come with clean hands. But where are those people with clean hands? Where will you find them now? Because everyone has tainted hands. So it is really tricky.
It's tricky. All right, we are due for a short commercial break. And to the viewers out there, we know that you have views and opinions. There's a comment section right below this video. Give us your comments. Let's know what you think about this conversation. The hashtag is Focus on Parliament. See you shortly after this.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
We'll be back from that short commercial break, and we shall be, continuing right from where we stopped. And okay, let me go to Mr. Cromwell. Cromwell, still on our topic today about corruption. Is that even when you look at people who we imagine should be at the forefront of, the role of civil society in this case, all right? Because civil society, these are non-state actors. And where the state or the government is falling short, we expect to have a vibrant civil society that should be able to call government to account. But I don't know, what is the competence of the civil society? Do they have capacity to actually hold government accountable? Or have they over time also become, I don't know, fatigued? How do you evaluate civil society and its contribution towards fighting corruption? Because we know that in civil society, there are NGOs, there are cultural institutions, there are,
Including the media.
yeah, media. So, yeah, how is civil society performing in terms of the fight on corruption?
Thank you. It really looks like there is no sector which is not infiltrated. Even those that are expected to be at the forefront of the fight got some stains in relation to corruption or have been compromised. Take, for example, the religious institutions. There have been outcries in the public domain that some of the leadership of the religious institutions have been compromised, and they do not speak up or follow up aggressively on some of these corruption cases. You've heard of envelopes crossing hands, you've heard of cars being given out, you've heard of spies being planted all across some of these institutions. And the environment we operate here in is not a purely democratic environment. It is militarized and characterized by fear. And so in that kind of environment, it's not really very easy for even civil society that are committed to fighting corruption to come out right and boldly face the lion and deal with it. That is where the problem is really lying. There are also questions of double standardness around our societies. You know, you're preaching corruption, anti-corruption on this side. On the other hand, you are the one doing it. So it leads to a state of confusion. That's why I'm very hard on the president himself. I am hard on him because the president is actually directly involved in corruption in this country, bribing Parliament to change the law. 5 million, remember the change of the Constitution, amendment of the Constitution that removes the term limit. Deploying the army to go and besiege Parliament, and then they amend the law at gunpoint. That is all corruption. Sending money during election campaign times and bribing voters. You cannot do that. And then on the other hand, you're saying that, we are fighting this thing and that. That is why it all begins with the authority of the state. The president is the image of a country, is the authority of the country. The country has invested power upon him. So that when he declares, there are some times when the president actually needs to make what we call presidential decrees on some of these things. So that is when we see, this man is serious. Just decree that. And you set a time frame, say, starting from this time to this time, I want all ministers, all government servants, their wealth declared. Presidential decree. Has it ever happened? So that is where when you're fighting, I remember very well that even the IGG herself, before the president was, so demonstrated a face of disappointment when she opened up and president advised her to go slow. You can't go slow on things that are damaging the reputation of the country, that is taking country down the pit of hell, really. So the fight against corruption requires the executive power of the president, and all of us will salute the president and say, yes, sir, we are here to join you. Otherwise, if you accommodate my colleague because he brought me, he's the one who enables me to run, to stay in power, he can steal anything else, but as long as he doesn't touch my seat of power, it's okay. That is unfortunate. That is my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Apollo, the question, just to expand on that, is the role of the fourth estate,
Yes.
the media in unpacking corruption.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is the role of the fourth estate is really pivotal in such a, not only fight to corruption, but even in supporting development projects. But now, as a practitioner, I can authoritatively say that even the press is now a victim of a corrupt system. I can also state that we as media at times even fear pointing out several issues, because you write a story, then there is a call that will come in to the editor or the media owner to either retrieve that, to retract the story, or the media house is closed. We have seen media houses that have been closed for hosting politicians, just to air their views. So the whole civil society is intimidated. The civil society is very careful. This time, they are emaciated. They have some have closed shop. So it is really terrible. I have talked about, and my colleague has also talked about, the appetite to stay in power. The appetite to stay in power will ruin everything. The time the president bribed Parliament to lift the term limits on presidency, I think is the time the MPs understood that we can also take bribes. I don't think they are the MPs who went and begged for the 5 million. It came from the top. So as long as we have people who want to stay in power, then we will see nepotism, because they will want to bring people who they are sure will protect them, keep them in power. We will see bribery, open bribery, people running away with billions of money, and they will not be convicted, they will not be brought to any court. We will see land grabbing, because they know even the courts are infiltrated. There are cadres there, we will not take them to court and you win the case. If you don't have money to, people who don't have money cannot even follow up their cases in court. So it is what we said in the beginning. The system is corrupt, and everyone in that system will not operate in a normal way.
Well, I can. Everyone here is just very devastated. But Doctor, let me get back to you, because we adopted. I don't use the word conflict resolution, but each time there are disputes or each time there is a complaint, we have a process through which we file a complaint and then have it addressed, which is our judiciary. That because even the IGG, for it to successfully prosecute, I think it would need the support of the judiciary. I don't know if it has judicial powers, the IGG.
No.
I don't think so. But so that means that the courts, and
there
that
is
is
an
why
anti-corruption court.
Anti-corruption court. That is why earlier on you mentioned the Chogam case. All right. So it means that we rely on the court to help us to really bring these individuals to book. But let us look at the court, the judiciary in itself, its independence. Do you think the judiciary, as it stands today, because we have seen those who are implicated in the Mabati scandal of Karamoja, like you mentioned, they were taken there, but now I don't know how far the case has gone. So the judiciary as the place where we take to these complaints, how is it looking like? Is it independent enough? Do they have sufficient? Let's just talk about them.
Ideally, government should not be working in piecemeal. You know, it is supposed to be working together. We have 3 arms of government which are independent yet in their operations, but in executing of their work, they depend on each other.
Yeah, it's interconnected.
They are interconnected. The earlier question of civil society and the media, the fourth estate, these are actors who are also given space through license, through what they are doing, to complement government and make their contribution as far as either fighting corruption or delivery of services is concerned. In doing their work, they actually renting the space from government. Government has rented them some space. So when they begin criticizing it, when they begin saying things are not going well, government feels a bit uncomfortable. And that's why you've seen some NGOs, their offices have been ransacked into, computers stolen, no cases are put against those organizations. Some have had their accounts frozen for a given period of time with no explanation, with no justification. So we are in that kind of, ping-pong relationship. Now, when it comes to the judiciary, we also see, those overflows. There is a big actor in top that has the executive powers that controls the guns and the monies and what.
Who appoints and disappoints
the heads of these institutions. Unfortunately, yes, we see the judiciary also suffering the excesses of the systems that we are talking about. Are they corrupt? Yes, there have also been complaints from judges.
The corruption index highlights police and judiciary in the second place.
And the judiciary
consistently.
So it's the police and the judiciary, and I don't know whether it has also become corrupt because we lack effective checks, which he was talking about, to punish corruption. Now, if the ones appointing them are corrupt and the ones who are being appointed, maybe they are even negotiating deals. We shall not follow this case, and when this case comes to court, we shall see how to address it. It's very unfortunate, and the problem has become endemic, and it is systematic, and the courts, which are supposed to be the sanctuary of justice, have also become accomplices, in that system. Even in the normal judicial dispensation of justice, whether in courts or in investigations, people are saying now justice is for the rich, not for the poor people of Upper who are fighting for their land, or Kalmojong who are being displaced from their communities. And
I was being nominated for Parliament, and I know that the magistrate is supposed to sign my nomination form, but a bribe was required. A few hours before I was nominated, and the person rejected my appeal to have my form signed in the judiciary. And I had to seek for a magistrate from another district. I had to go to Kotido to have my form signed by a lawyer in Kotido. Otherwise, I was not going to be nominated for Parliament. That is the judiciary in Uganda.
Could have been partly the reason why you did not go through.
It contributed. Precisely.
But what they are saying is true. The judiciary does not work alone. There is police, which arrests
and
the DPP and investigates, and then they forward the case, the file to the DPP, and then to court, sanctioned to court. Now, Somebody talked about Mabati. And he talked about that systematic way that they even do their things. They do things knowing even the outcome. Even from the beginning, they know the outcome. Even on the charge, writing the charge, they even know that this charge will not go very far. Even if it goes to court, we will know how to do what? To work around it.
It's like a theory of change.
Yes. So, well, like I said, the judiciary has been highlighted consistently in the corruption index as the second in Uganda, being the most corrupt institution. Well, but also, even in its workings, even when we have good people in the judiciary, they will be victimized. Is it justice such? Yeah, you know how she has suffered, and others like her. So it is. I cannot run away from what I said. It is the system. Police, the judiciary will only wait for what comes from police and the DPP, and of course, if it has been worked out down at the beginning, then maybe the judiciary we can fault them for not doing their work, but of course, it is a matter of the whole system. And like I said, we should look at how others have done it. Me, I think, like he said, people, the leaders who have that will, things will move. But if you have a leader who will tell even the ombudsman that you must go through this and this and this in camera and in front of people, that you'll scare the investors. If you introduce the lifestyle audits, then you know that there is a problem. And finally, there is something we did not talk about in the report. The lack of inadequate supportive laws to track the assets of the corrupt and confiscate them. I think there was an opportunity in 2014. It was Honorable John Simbwa. He tabled a bill in Parliament that would facilitate the systems to even sell the properties of the corrupt, so as to recoup and recover the money, the stolen money, so as to take it back to the consolidated fund. What happened? It died there, and that is what was in the report. Honorable Betty Kame is saying we also need a law that can follow up on the corrupt.
I think it was called
and have their assets sold. Yes.
The law is it?
Yeah, to
Prince
recover
for something.
Yes, to recover the public funds.
Yeah.
So, like you said, no, it is members of Parliament who can actually, it had come as a private members bill. Now, what has stopped these members of Parliament from raising it as a private members bill, and it comes to Parliament, it is debated, and possibly it passes. That brings in what you asked about Parliament. Even the members of Parliament are now, even Parliament is corrupt. It's one of the institutions that are corrupt. They should be the ones now saying, no, we need a law. If somebody steals and he's convicted, let us go and track his assets and sell them and bring back the money.
So it's called the Proceeds of Assets Recovery Bill.
Yes, recovery bill. What happened? So I think we have to appreciate those who have done something. Me, I appreciate Honorable Betty Kamya. She has done something, the IG, but then we have a long way to go if we are to fight corruption and get results.
Our expectation is now too low, actually. When my brother says we appreciate Honorable Kamya for doing something, after 37 years, we should not just be talking of something. At this stage, we should be appreciating Honorable Kamya for doing the job, not just doing something. Standard. No.
Okay. Since you have the mic ready, I want to interrogate a theory with you. I love African writers, and I've read Dambisa Moyo. Dambisa Moyo is a Zambian author.
Yeah.
In her book, Dead Aid, she says that aid has actually been the biggest source of corruption in developing African countries. That because you have aid that comes, some of it comes with limited conditions or no condition at all, and it is in the hands of a government that is not exposed to so much money. Therefore, it makes governance attractive, but also it inspires corruption. Because if you have money that no one is going to ask you to account for, that's saying, oh, just have this money and use it. You don't account to the person who has given it to you, neither do the people who are supposed to benefit from
Intended beneficiary.
have the right to. Oh, yes, they have the right because ideally it is them who will have to repay it. But again, we are saying that some of these loans don't even have conditions. But also over time, you know that we have been forgiven for some of these loans. So I don't know, do you think that foreign aid, has somehow influenced the culture of corruption?
Precisely. I really agree with the Dr. Dambisa Moyo's theory, because, free things have no pain. You do not feel the pain of losing a free thing. And that is why, in my view, I wanted graduated tax back in Uganda, so that at least everyone knows that they are paying for services. Ugandans have been hoodwinked into thinking that they are not paying taxes, especially Ugandans who are in the rural sector, those who are, can say, I'm sorry to say, they're illiterate. They don't understand the meaning of taxes. So when we impose taxes on every Ugandan, and we say no to foreign aid, and we are going to fund our development plan using our own, from our own taxes, we will feel the pain when someone steals that money. But if the money is from someone else, you do not feel the pain because, after all, you don't know how it all came about. And of course, the burden that foreign aid levies on us are indisputable. It has made us to become the subjects of colonial powers. They can dictate on us policies that are unfriendly to our interests, to our cultures, to our norms and values. And so, therefore, we as a community that are endowed with the abundant resources should be able to tax our citizens and exploit these resources, the oil and the gold and the marbles we have in Karamoja and all whatsoever, the coffee, the cotton, the matoke and all so many others, to develop our country as opposed to our dependence on foreign aid. So Dr. Dambisa Moyo's proposal should be embraced if Africa is actually to develop. And I believe that my friend and the doctor should be able to agree with this assertion as well. Yeah. So, but when I get back to my background as a peace fellow, corruption scandals contribute greatly to interruption of peace. One of the pillars of the positive peace is that there is need for a corrupt-free environment if we are to have genuine peace in our country. And the nature of corruption that we have in Uganda is what my good friend, Ambassador Lara Tuno defines as obscene corruption. And that form of corruption needs to be dealt with if you are to have genuine peace. You see, that's why we are conflicting with our environment. Investors have come, so-called investors have come into our country, and they are building in wetlands. And when NEMA, that has been established as an authority to address anything that interrupts the environment, a minister of investment comes in and asks NEMA to go slow, to shut down, and yet has been given authority. So that makes us to question, because the operation of investors in our countries, foreign investors in our country, is not free of corruption as well. Because I believe that they bribe their way into the market, you know. So investors, doing small business, that should be ring fenced for our young Ugandan graduates who have no jobs. You find an investor from China is having a kiosk within Kampala. They are selling petty things around. This is just because we know that they bribe their way into dominating our economy. I am persuaded that Uganda's economy is mainly owned by foreigners who bribe their ways into this country. And that does not generate peace. As a peace fellow, I think that we need a corrupt-free environment if we are to have genuine peace in our country, and if we are to enjoy the development that was promised. It was called what? Fundamental change. What promised about 37 years ago. We are still waiting for the fruit of that promise. But that cannot come if the environment is not cleared for every Ugandan to enjoy the NRM government. Surely.
There was that talk from fundamental change to no change.
Yeah, there's no change. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right, Doctor,
Sure.
let me get back to you. And in the report, the IGG proposes the fast tracking of the implementation of a digitized system, that governance should be digital. That if you're a permanent secretary at a ministry A or X, that the procurement of services should be digital, so that there are timestamps and they can easily fast track and easily follow up. So do you think that implementing e-governance to a greater extent offers us a chance at fighting corruption? But also, do you have the infrastructure?
Exactly.
Do you have the bandwidth of internet to allow that infrastructure to run?
One of the manifestations of corruption in Uganda today is employing wrong people for right jobs. You find a qualified medical doctor is the government spokesperson and the head of ICT. And you find Mohanga, who is a certified communicator, is Minister of Public Health.
And a diploma holder in Swasa is in charge of economic monitoring.
And
Honorable, what's her name? Margaret Mohanga is
in health.
Is Minister of State for Public Health, but she's
her profession.
She's a qualified mass communication journalist specialist who should be doing communication and guidance. Going backwards, when we're talking about these funds and what, I remember when General Muwezi was a minister for health.
A lawyer.
And a lot of money came from Chogam, and he declared openly that the Ministry of Health does not have the capacity to utilize these funds. And they said, no, you don't have the capacity, but the funds have to be utilized. It is not surprising that it found itself, in the pockets of individuals, and he was censured consequently to that. Coming is in the education sector. When COVID came in, we went into the lockdown. Among the culprits of lockdown were even universities that have faculties and departments in ICT. We couldn't even manage online e-learning. Up to now, universities are still struggling. Now, when you begin talking about e-governance, yes, it sounds romantic and exciting, but where is the capacity? As you already pointed at it, there have been several attempts to digitalize, some sections of governance, and that is the mystery of the current government. When His Excellency the President wants something to work out, he will ensure that it works out, to some extent. URA has been digitalized to a significant extent because it is the lifeline of government. It's where the resources are
There
coming
is
from.
political will there.
There is political will. He has linked that with the registration of companies and
Yes.
bureaus and what?
PPDA.
PPDA, because now they want to link your NIN, National Identification Number, to your business, to your property, to aid the taxation. So there he will send people to China to do ICT. He will send some soldiers in SFC to learn some of those things. They are the ones who are, manning and womaning the border posts and collecting tax. When he wants something to be done, it will work.
Yes.
And the corruption will not be as much as it is in other centers. But what is the percentage of that given the overall government institutions and systems? But are those systems beyond manipulation? Today we are talking about cybercrime and cyber. People enter into the accounts of banks and steal money. They enter into spaces, digital spaces of big organizations, and they go with these funds. So it is a very good recommendation, good promise, but there is a lot that needs to be done to make it a reality. It is comprehensive. It requires a lot of investment. It requires a lot of infrastructure, human capacity to do that. Yes, it will also require the goodwill to ensure that those systems are not hacked. If people are eating the money that is coming through aid or that we collect through our own internal revenue generation methods, be sure you will hear a big report from the press. The system has been compromised. 1.3 trillion.
Even the thieves will use the systems to will compromise the systems.
Compromise the
Also
system so that
to
even
get money.
Exactly. So I think it is a promise which is too nascent, which we cannot look at immediately. But yes, we are in the digitalization era. We cannot run away from it. After the lockdown, after the first phase of the lockdown, I think in November, there was an international conference on the fourth industrial revolution. And the need for digitalization. And the comment I made was that COVID to the education sector is a blessing in disguise. Because Ugandans and Africans generally, we have been too asleep, too complacent, too traditional, not knowing how these other economies and other international spaces are operating as far as digitalization is concerned. What was exciting, especially international schools and some big private schools in town, they had even digitalized the teaching and learning content as early as primary school. Even secondary schools, some were doing it better than universities. And for me, my recommendation at that time was, yes, let us digitalize. Those that have the capacity, go with it. Those that don't have the capacity can remain with the traditional system. When you digitalize, you get even one teacher can teach so many thousands of students at the same time. But then we have someone on top of Ministry of Education. When you say online examination, no, that is going to be cheated. It shouldn't. When you talk about the space, they say, no, we do not have. So then we see the contradictions. If you want to have a digitalized population, the easiest way to achieve that is to use the education institutions.
Precisely. Yeah.
But now it is post-COVID, even universities are going back to the analog system. Yes, the National Council for Higher Education is saying 40% online and 60% digital. But some institutions are not even able, to manage that. So if you want to achieve e-governance, then you need the biggest of the population, oriented to the e-systems and the e-approaches. So I would be interested, yes, to see how government is taking up, that recommendation. we are in the digital era. It is the way to go.
Yeah.
It is the way to go. But is our environment receptive and ready, you know, to kickstart that process and move us in the direction that we want? That's where there are going to be fears. As he said, if after 37 years we say, okay, they are trying,
Still trying.
they are trying. So do we need the other 37 years to say, okay, now we are trying with the digitalization, or maybe things are going to change? Any attempt to digitalization is a welcome, kind of experience, given what is going on globally, but we must be prepared.
Exactly. Yeah.
Our time is fast spent. I'll give us maybe 2 minutes each to just give us recommendations and way forwards and parting shots. I'll begin with Cromwell as I come towards Doctor. So the viewers are there listening to you. Just your recommendations and your last words.
I thank the IGG for the effort, for trying. And they simply need to be supported by every relevant stakeholder, other sectors, so that they can do commendable jobs for this country, Uganda. The scourge of corruption on our development is appalling and requires aggressive intervention. And therefore, I think that when there is goodwill, as we have all agreed here, it will not take long before Uganda becomes a new, a born-again country with a new name, with a reduced rate of corruption. So I think we still have an opportunity to make Uganda a great country, a corrupt-free environment, so that we can enjoy the peace that is really genuinely meaningful peace in our environment. Otherwise, it will take us more years struggling to achieve what we should have achieved within a very short time. I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, welcome. Yes, Apollo.
Yes, I also agree that the IGG has done her work, but I also think that she can do better. What I will recommend is somehow harsh. Me, I think instead of lamenting, the IGG should resign if she's not given the necessary funds to execute her mandate. I have cited the case of Justice Research. I think it is a few weeks ago she indicated that she's going to retire early, to go into early retirement because of the harsh environment at the judiciary. In the judiciary, so I'm sure we still have people who can turn this around. If everyone does his or her work, plays his or her role. If you are in a government office and you see things going wrong, speak out. If it necessitates you relinquishing the job, do it. I think that's how we can do it. These corrupt people do steal the public funds, and on Sundays they go to church.
And give part of it to church.
Why shouldn't these people who are, our religious leaders, take charge and say, no, we know that you are corrupt, you have been convicted, we are not taking your money.
They even sit in front of the church.
Yes. Why are they given those front seats in the front row? So I'm saying, let's take a radical stand. Every one of us take a radical stand. Look in the corruption into the face and tell them, you are wrong, we cannot tolerate you, and even that will be a basis for our leaders to know that indeed we are tired. Because if we all decide to fold our hands, this won't change. Thank you.
Yes, Doctor, you have the final.
Corruption is something that is very, very painful. The beneficiaries of corruption are already powerful, and they do not want to admit that what they are doing is wrong. The victims of corruption, unfortunately, are living in the survival mode. They even don't understand how corruption is affecting or not affecting them. Even the recommendation by the IGG herself that people should take these things into their hands is not something that is easily foreseeable, because a common person on the ground are only concerned whether they will get something to eat and whether their children will go to school tomorrow. This thing of government officials being corrupt is an affordable luxury, you know, to them.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to the listeners. I want to talk to the people who are the engineers and the beneficiaries of corruption, to reach a moment and say, no, enough is enough. Let us allow the systems and the structures to work so that we can have a better country for the sake of all Ugandans. Thank you.
And I come back, I'm sorry to say, well, before I go away, we have not forgotten the Iron Seed scandal. It is a thorn in the flesh of the Karamoja people and the people of Uganda. Please prosecute those who stole the Karamoja iron seeds. We have not forgotten that yet. That case will not be swept under the carpet.
Yeah, that and much more. I don't think any case should be forgotten. Any corrupt official should be prosecuted and brought to book, and they should be able to repay whatever they've stolen from the people. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Okello. Honorable. Yeah? Honorable Okello.
Attempted.
Prospective honorable.
Thank you very much, our fourth estate, Mr. Apollo.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and of course, Doctor, thank you for your time. And of course, to the viewers, it's always a pleasure having you every single morning of Saturday. Well, until next week, same time, same place, have yourself a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.